If you'd like to play tennis more like Carlos Alcaraz so you can win more matches, then you've clicked on exactly the right video. You're about to learn the top 3 things that you can copy about his game the very next time you play. Hey, I'm Ian, and over the last 15 years, I've helped more than 1 million tennis players improve through my videos, podcasts, and top-rated book on Amazon. Let's dive right in. The first thing we're going to study and learn how to copy from Carlos is how he does such a great job neutralizing big serves and just getting the point started in a neutral exchange, meaning we're taking away the control that the server is supposed to have in the point and just beginning each point on neutral ground. Neither player really has the upper hand. You'll notice as he neutralizes these returns of serve, he uses a wide range of different techniques, which we're going to dive into in just a second. Sometimes he just blocks the ball, other times he makes a bigger swing. But notice the direction. All of these shots are going just right down the middle. Not all of them are hit very hard, but all of them have great depth, and they're just traveling down the middle third of the court, which removes a lot of options from the server's list of choices that they can hit, and does a good job of just starting things on even ground. The first return technique we're going to learn from Carlos is just a simple block. When you're playing against somebody that has a huge, powerful delivery like Alexander does on the other side, a lot of times you can use the energy and use the power that they're sending you and just redirect it. As long as you place it purposefully, you don't have to take a big swing and hit a huge, powerful shot back in order to just get things neutral. So his technique here that he's using is he's not turning his body nearly as much as he would for a typical forehand. In fact, only about half as far. His shoulders aren't even getting to 90 degrees to the baseline, and he's just putting his racket out behind the incoming ball so that he can accurately and precisely just hit a clean shot and then simply push forwards and guide the racket through, very similar to just a forehand volley technique. So the keys here are making a unit turn to the side, preparing the hands with the shoulders. He's not bringing the racket back any further than that. He's leaving his hand and his racket there, right behind the incoming ball, then using all the force and the energy coming into his racket and turning his shoulders gently forwards to just redirect the ball in the other direction. So he's using Zverev's power against him, redirecting it, and then having just the right amount of firmness in his hand to place the ball deep in the court, right in the center, which is basically just starting things out like a ground stroke point, just feeding the ball down the middle. And now all of the power and the offense that his opponent has with the serve has been neutralized, and they can start battling it out. The next type of return that Carlos uses a lot, and I recommend you practice, we're going to call the half swing. So this time, Zverev hits that same serve on that same side, and Carlos is going to use a swing here, but it's not nearly as big as or powerful or dynamic as he typically would hit a forehand. Instead, he's again just turning his body about half as far as he typically would on a big, fully loaded forehand ground stroke swing. The reason why is he's receiving a ton of pace already. He doesn't need to add any more, and he's reaching and stretching, so he doesn't have a lot of balance or leverage to be able to really unwind and hit this shot hard. But unlike the block, now he is starting with the racket face closed, facing downwards, because he is going to come upwards and guide the racket up past the back of the ball to give it some topspin. And he's going to do that by turning his shoulders forwards. He doesn't have the ability to unwind his entire kinetic chain and use his hips and transition into the ball because he's been put out on a stretch, and so he's unable to fully use all of his athleticism and acceleration because his opponent had the advantage of starting with the serve and has a big serve. So this is not a full ground stroke swing with a full coil and uncoil, but it's about half of one that still gives him a little bit of forward rotation, which allows him to hit the ball a little bit higher over the net, which gives him that good depth right back down the middle again. And just like the block, they're starting off in neutral footing, even ground, and now they can go to work and Carlos can battle against his opponent. If this video has already been helpful, it would really mean a lot if you would click the like button. Thank you so much for supporting my videos. The third style of return that Carlos uses is actually a full swing. Now, this isn't as big or powerful or aggressive of a swing as if he was receiving a short kind of sitter right in the middle of the court and he had full ability to coil and uncoil using his entire kinetic chain. And in fact, this is another 120 mile an hour serve, but this time it's within striking distance and it's in his strike zone. So he's able to make a bigger coil, first of all. So look at how now his shoulders are close to 90 degrees. Now his hand is staying on his racket because he's not as stretched out, he's not as off balance, so he has the ability to use more of his kinetic chain and unwind into this shot, but he's not taking as big of a turn, he's not unwinding as fast, he's more so using the energy coming into his racket and then just simply smoothly unwinding and bringing his racket around to be able to hit a really strong, clean shot back. So this time he is going to face forwards with his hips and his shoulders. He's fully unwound with his upper body and his lower body here because he wasn't on so much of a stretch. And so even though he is turning forwards, it's not a huge, gigantic swing, but he is finishing it. He's using the entire checklist that you should be using for all of your forehand ground strokes. But the situation is a fast incoming ball, so he's able to keep this really smooth and direct it again right back down the middle, nice and deep. And this neutralizes things really well, so he's able to get right into the rest of the points. Here's my favorite drill to work on those skills. I'm practicing here with Mark, who notice is standing up around the service line. And this does a couple things. When your partner serves from all the way up here, they don't have to work so hard to get you a pretty decent delivery. It's also much easier to hit the ball in the box when you're standing up around the service line. So from this position, Mark is able to get me really repetitive practice. It also gets me a ball faster to my position than he would be able to from back behind the baseline without trying so hard and kind of cranking out his arm. So this is a great way to get a lot of reps, and you can have your partner serve you faster shots to practice your block, like what I'm doing here, and then a little bit slower shots to practice your neutral ones, and then even slower ones again to practice actually transitioning forwards and attacking and being offensive off the return of serve, which normal tennis players like us have that opportunity fairly frequently. The second skill we're going to copy and learn from Carlos is his ability to change the different depths of his shots. Most tennis players, unfortunately, just really focus in on hitting right and left, meaning laterally, forcing their opponent to run from forehand to backhand to forehand and backhand. But the reality is we have a ton of space forward and backward that we can make them run to. Singles players tend to be very comfortable moving laterally right and left because it's a big chunk of what they practice. They're doing kind of windshield wiper drills, moving out to their right, hitting forehands, moving out to their left, hitting backhands. There's not a lot of normal everyday players like us that practice transitioning forwards, that practice moving backwards for higher, deeper shots, and transitioning between all four is a skill that most players are not very comfortable with. Now, Carlos is well known for his drop shot, but notice that a lot of these shots aren't even drop shots. They're just kind of awkward, lower, kind of backspin type of shots. They're not drop shots, but they are forcing his opponent to come forward. And guess what? His opponent's comfort zone, and even at world-class level, like most opponents' comfort zone in singles is going to be back around the baseline or behind the baseline. It's forcing his opponent to leave that comfort zone and go someplace else that's outside of their wheelhouse. That in and of itself is a super powerful tactic to force them to have to hit different types of shots on your terms and get them out of their comfort zone and force them to get a little bit dirty up around the net. Here's Carlos in a practice session practicing his drop shot. And what all of those short backspin shots have in common are two things. All of them, the racket is starting above the height of contact and coming down through contact. That gives the ball backspin, and that forces the ball shorter in the court, forces your opponent to have to come more towards the net. And the second critical thing is he's got an open racket face, meaning his strings are angled upwards slightly at contact, which is what gives the ball the upward trajectory and allows him to hit it softly and short so that, again, it accentuates how far his opponent has to run and how far out of their comfort zone that they have to go in order to track down the ball. Here's my favorite training drill to work on that skill. This particular drill is going to work on really soft touch shots, but we're practicing the principles and the building blocks to be able to hit this same type of soft shot from anywhere on the court, just like Carlos does. Notice right out of the gates, watch this player in red, how his racket is starting up, coming down, and notice how he's got an open racket face, and the goal here is to hit your opponent's pyramid on the other side. There's a pyramid on both sides about 3 or 4 feet away from the net or so, and these two players are both hitting softly to try to knock over the other person's pyramid. I like to call this game Battleship, like the old school game. We're trying to sink the other person's battleship, and they're both using different amounts of open racket face, different amounts of relaxed hand to try to find just the right amount of touch to drop the ball on the other person's battleship. This is a lot of fun, and you can put the targets in all kinds of different places and practice hitting this same type of soft feel type of shot. You should practice it off a fast incoming ball too, but this is a great place to start to develop the feel and the touch. I saved the best for last. The third thing that we can copy from Carlos, and it's something all of us should be implementing in our games immediately, is he just hustles and works. He takes a page right out of the Nadal playbook and just never quits. No matter how far away the ball is, he's always hustling, he's always running, he's always trying to get one more ball back in play. That puts our opponents under a tremendous amount of pressure. And believe it or not, in terms of mental toughness, in terms of actually psyching out your opponent, there's a core kind of lesson behind this that is really important to understand. There's 4 key messages we're sending to our opponent each and every time we hustle really hard towards the ball. The first one is just simply we are telling them with our body language and with the energy and the intensity that we're putting out, I will not stop running. That adds a lot of kind of intimidation factor, a lot of stress to our opponents because they realize they're in for a battle on this particular match. Second thing is we're sending them the message, you have to hit one more ball. And just by making them hit one more shot, we significantly increase our likelihood of success because most points end with an error. And so if we make them hit one more shot consistently, we're going to rack up more points and have a better chance of winning the match. We're also sending the message to our opponent that hitting one great shot isn't enough. They're going to have to follow it up with another great shot, which adds a lot of pressure, adds a lot of stress, and a lot of kind of doubt can start to seep into the minds of our opponent as they ask themselves, man, how many more shots am I going to have to hit? How many great shots that I thought was going to be a winner am I going to have to hit in order to beat this person? And finally, we're sending them the message, you have to make it better. If they want to hit a winner, they're going to have to aim closer to the lines. They're going to have to aim lower over the nets. And now they're, again, going to start making more mistakes, which tips things in our favor. So there's 2 different techniques to being good at hustling and just getting more balls. And the first one is the skill of guessing. Check out this point scenario where Zverev stretches out Alcaraz right off of the first shot, kind of an emergency situation. Alcaraz sits up a short sitter. And at this point right here, Zverev could easily put the ball away in either direction. He could hit this shot inside out, or he could hit it cross court and hit a winner either way. Carlos, if he just stands here in the center, could easily get beat in either direction. He understands this, so right as Alexander starts to make his forward swing, look at Carlos just start to run. Physically, he is committing in this direction, and he might be wrong. It's important to make note of that. Like, this is not about being right every time and always winning the points. This is about the psychological warfare of forcing your opponent to possibly have to hit one more shot. But even if he guesses right and he loses the point right out of the gates, it still pays dividends down the road. Because the next time that your opponent is in this situation and they're setting up for that, what they think is probably going to be a winner, in the back of their mind, they're thinking, oh man, last time I went in this direction and somehow he just showed up in the right place, so I better try to kind of mix it up and be tricky here and go the other way. And they start thinking through things and overcomplicating it, and before you know it, they'll start to make some mistakes or try to aim closer to the lines to try to hit a winner, and they'll make more mistakes. So Carlos is starting to run before the ball gets hit, which means he might be wrong, but in this particular point, he was right, puts himself right in the right spot, and guess what? He forces Zverev to have to hit another shot. And it's not an easy one. He's hitting a volley from down below the height of the net, and look at what Carlos is doing on the other side. Now, Zverev could hit this down the line and try to go behind him because he knows that Carlos is a big hustle player, likes to run after the ball. But he does go cross court, and Carlos is just telling him, listen, I am willing to keep running. Now, he doesn't get to this one, but this is still sending a message that he gets on a full sprint. And this is delivering to his opponent the feeling of, I got to make it better. I got to hit one more. That adds pressure and will win you extra points. The second part of this skill is just making the decision you will run after the ball. My college coach used to say there's no subjective decisions, meaning it doesn't matter if you think your opponent's ball is going out or you think it's going to bounce twice before you get there. You're just going to run. As long as the ball hasn't landed out yet and it hasn't bounced twice yet, you will run. You're not going to make some kind of judgment call and then decide later on, oh shoot, I guess I should have run for that. No, just run. Like the whole point of the game is to run after the ball. So let's set a habit. Let's set a commitment to just running after the ball. Let me know in the comments down below, will you commit to just running after every ball? You will get to more shots, more than you probably ever dreamed was possible. You will put more pressure on your opponent and you will win more matches. Thanks for watching today. If you'd like to learn how to drop shot like Carlos Alcaraz, check out the lesson that's on the screen right now. If you've enjoyed this one, do me a favor and click that like button. Thank you so much. Talk to you again soon.